Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Retro Game Club Podcast, Season 7, Episode 7, which is also Episode 196. I hope I got that right because I am recording this not in sequential order. I am Rob, and joining me for his triumphant podcast return, Keith Coogan. Welcome, and how are you doing?
I am amazing. Thanks for having me back. I guess I wasn't terrible the first time. I appreciate it. Because I love talking about everything pop culture, from movies and TV shows to video games, and they've been a big part of my life since I was 6, probably. So, yeah, definitely. Thank you for having me on.
No, it's always a pleasure, and I love seeing you online. I've been seeing you have been doing a lot of events lately. You have anything you want to plug up front? Anything happening in the future where people could come meet and greet, give you a high five, anything like that?
Oh, sure. We got a series of Florida toy shows in Florida. Look up Florida Toy Show, and they are great because you will see those toys that, you had. Oh, you'll see something and you go, I remember I had that. We sold it at some garage sale. Some other kid took it. I broke it. We threw it out. I don't know. And it is amazing because the people, let's just put it this way. My generation, we're the ones that have resources.
Yeah.
And the kids today are stuck in all this debt and they don't have the kind of opportunities. Back in the day, you could have a part-time job and support a family of 7 and send them to college. No, I'm just kidding. But it was a little easier economically, I think. Just anybody can attest to, one single income used to be able to take care of everything. And now everybody's got to really hustle. So.
Yeah. And you know what, those pop culture events, that's like my safe space. I've been doing those since, oh geez. I mean, you probably started before me, but I don't know. I think I started going in 94 and I just got hooked on the first one. So if anyone hasn't been to those, it's not nerdy at all. It's fantastic.
Well, it is,
but in the best way.
We have to understand that nerdism, video games, comic books, superhero, they've taken over. They won.
Yeah.
The richest people on the planet are computer nerds you wouldn't have talked to on the school bus.
Yeah.
So we got our revenge. The computer nerds took over, and now the top movies, the top products, the top I'm recording this interview on a phone, an iPhone, which, when I was 13 and watching Star Trek reruns, you told me, oh, you're going to have this little device in your hand that can talk to anybody and play the games and watch movies and you can do video conferencing. And I'm like, really? Come on, what's next? Teleportation?
It's pretty much Star Trek. Yeah, exactly. Well, hey, man, you got to do some of the pop culture events here in Sydney. There's some great ones. I'm sure they'd love to see you.
Yeah, that would be great.
But, you said video games were a big part of your life. And in the last time you were on this show, we started off with you playing with the Pong machine on I think a 747. And then
good memory.
We hopped around a bit, but it was funny. And I've mentioned this to listeners before that I didn't know your breadth of like 2600 to PS2 knowledge until like the last few minutes of that interview. I was like, oh my God, I almost threw this interview away. We gotta have a redo here. And, and so when you first got into the entertainment business, because it was a kind of a family business back then, were video games in your life? Were they at home? Were they in the studio, like in the green room or anything?
No, there was the one that was on the plane, as I did a series in Hawaii, and they had the Pong. And then I saw it in the local theater. They had Tank. Was that what it was called?
Yeah.
And, on one side, there's the pinball machine, which the pinball machine everybody is familiar with. And I think they had a bumper game where you could play either bumper pool or some sort of like, I can't remember the game. Pretty rudimentary. But then this tank game shows up, battle or combat or I don't know.
That's the one that's almost like a periscope thing you look into, right? Like you put your head up to it?
That was Battlezone. This was more like the Pong tank, Atari 2600 tank.
Yeah.
So that and Pong, and then, I think Space Invaders was really next. Nothing. But then, of course, Pac-Man, and that's when I saw the parents, the adults, get into it and play Pac-Man at the, Red Onion. Um, red onions are like terrible singles pickup joint, backgammon and syphilis.
Yeah, I've never heard of that
So,
place before.
oh yeah. So they would show up at the bars and nightclubs where the adults are discoing because this is the '70s. And then Donkey Kong. That was my first real obsession. There was a Donkey Kong at the restaurant bar or whatever in the neighborhood, and that one I kept playing. Even when Tron showed up next to it, I kept on Donkey Kong. Tried Tron, and Tron kicked my butt. So
So you were good at Donkey Kong?
good enough to get, and see all the different levels and
Hmm.
learn some of the patterns and get up there. And Galaga was and remains to this day, um, just very playable. One of my favorites. And as
That's
I used to
one.
say, we got a 60 in one um, barcade. What do you call it? Barrelcade. So it's a
Mhm.
bar barrel with the arcade in it,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it's got Donkey Kong and good beefy speakers. And there's just something about that sound. And we've got a couple of arcade one-ups, this Pac-Man, Asteroid, Centipede, um, Pac-Man, and get them going all at the same time. And it sounds like an arcade
It
from the
does. Oh, I know
80s.
that feeling. Isn't it the best where you just want to stand there and hang out and it just makes you feel so good? But
Yep.
Galaga, man, I mean, that's one where for some reason I was instantly good at that one as a kid. So even now when I go into a Dave and Buster's or round one or something, if there's a Galaga, I'll always try to get the top score. And I think I have two of those carts next to me here. I love that game. But when did games end up in your house?
1979 with the Atari 2600, bought from Adres in LA, which was like a discount appliance store. So
Hmm.
they had it was $99, I think, for the console. Games were $20.
Hmm. And
And I had a
so
good round
w-
of
was
everything
was
from,
your family happy with it, or was it
Oh
just
yeah, we
Keith
all played it
saying,
together.
"Okay,
We
that's
all played it
cool."
together. It was a reward for me working and keeping good grades and paying all the bills and just staying out of trouble, and something that keeps me inside. So I had a TV in my bedroom, young.
Hmm.
Number one, once again, the babysitter. But also, I want good get to watch old westerns and
Hmm.
reruns of like Gilligan's Island and Bewitched and all that stuff, so I could learn the language of the medium, if you will. When I'm on TV, I got to watch a lot of
Yeah,
TV. So
absolutely.
I always
Yeah.
had a TV in my room, but then I added the Atari 2600, and our favorite was is it Skydive? Oh my God, Skydiver. That is one of our favorite games because if you don't open your shoe, you just wind up as this pool. You go splat. And you dare each other to like open your chute later because that was a fun, anytime there weren't a lot of real two-player games on Atari
Hmm.
2600. A
Yeah.
lot of them were you go and then someone else takes a turn and then you trade back and forth, kind of like pinball style. But it was always fun when you could get those paddles going or, get go head to head.
Yeah. Yeah. Man, I just looked that one up. I never owned that on 2600. Oh, this is going to be a game club game soon. That looks great.
Which game?
Skydiver. That looks
Oh,
great.
Skydiver's hysterical. Couple of different game modes. Some have moving platforms. Some it's fun. It's fun. Battles, tank. I think it was just tank battle or tank.
Hmm.
Was popular. Regular old Pong, Breakout. I started to quickly understand the difference between Activision games and other publishers, and kind of understood there's a politics going on
Yeah. Hey,
between
you were young to get
making
that. That's pretty
games
smart to
for
get that.
the
Yeah.
console. Video game wars were in high. Yes, I got a copy of ET for Christmas and was sorely disappointed with it. So I had it, I had a lot of games. I counted all of the consoles and games I gave my little brother at one point,
Oh.
and it was $6,000 worth of consoles and
Oh my
games.
God.
The games had gone up to 30, $40 by that
Hmm.
point, but still, That was a lot. So it was a Atari 2600, a Nintendo, uh, the one with the robot,
Mm-hmm.
Sega Master System, Sega Genesis, Sega 32X, Sega CD, Sega Saturn, uh, PlayStations. I hopped on. I think I somehow got a two, but really, the three is when it started to get heavy duty with the Call of Duty games and all
Mm-hmm.
that other stuff, and play hundreds of hours of Cyberpunk, Red Dead Redemption. Was playing Black Ops 6 this morning, so
So
I'm still
you never bounced from video games.
never bound. My God, it got. I was into Apple II games, DOS based games. Um,
Do you remember some of your Apple II games? Because we've had some of those developers on this podcast before.
Masquerade. Um, what was Aztec?
Oh yeah,
Um, yeah, it was tough. I'm reading on how they took advantage of the color problems that they had issues with.
they're
That
geniuses.
there's a text mode that is black and white, and there's no color issues. But then when you go into graphics mode, they found that it would do these purple and green and orange, like weird off, and they found a way to use that and get color in the game. Amazing.
It is. It is. All those King's
Oh,
Quest
one of my
games.
favorites, and I won. So when I got an Apple IIc 86, and then school had gotten a range of Apple IIes,
Mm-hmm.
and the tan towers. So first semester of computer club or computer class, computer science, I guess it was called.
Mm-hmm.
I took it, and then second semester, I am the teacher's assistant, and I'm booting up everything and setting up all the games. And one of them was uh, Taipan.
Yeah,
Oh
yeah.
my God, I still play it.
That's
You can
awesome.
play it on your phone. You can play it at work. Well, don't tell the boss. It's at archive.org, and um, it's Dope Wars. It's a classic trading. Dope Wars copy Taipan,
Mm-hmm.
but trading high low, buy low, sell high. Get into fights with pirates, things like that.
So,
Adventure was another big one. Text based
mm-hmm.
Zork, um, the Leather Goddess of Phobos, all the Infocom games. I would buy the clue books that had highlighters that would magically reveal a step at a time. So we give you a soft hint and a harder hint, and it would just tell you what to do, like a walkthrough.
Those are probably worth money today for sure.
I have King Arthur one. What is it, Mythic Quest, or I don't know. I have a King Arthur one, Legend of King Arthur. That's great, black and white on 3.5-inch floppy. I still have a lot of this.
So when you were in when you were in that class and you had the Apple IIc and
Oh
any
God,
other computers, did you ever have a want to maybe get into game development in any capacity?
yes. It was, there's a huge learning curve, and so I was like sprites, and then I was blown away by games like Karateka and Kung Fu. I liked the animation in that with the body. It was very smooth, and I was
Mm-hmm.
like, that's difficult problem to solve. Later in life, I took Java programming, and I worked on databases and stuff, and got to make money off of some programming, but no graphics or games or anything.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, did you see did you get the Karateka, the history of Karateka, I think it is? It came out like 2 years ago and has the whole making of, like there's a whole video, plus has every version of the game, and you could just play it right on your Nintendo Switch or Steam
Oh,
Deck or
that's nice.
something. Yeah.
No, but I just saw a making of Mortal Kombat that was
Yeah.
fantastic, and it showed the video footage that they took and the hacks that they made. Most of the stuff was not overcoming a problem; it was hacking
Hmm.
and getting more out of these systems than they're supposed to, and
Yeah.
playing memory tricks and that deep nerd stuff fascinates me. Some people are into like physics and planets, and I'm like, no, I'm into like kind of some of these programmers did some really genius stuff. Like John Romero and his fast in square inverse trick.
Oh yeah,
To,
Carmack. It was
to,
Carmax that did
oh, it
that.
was
Yeah.
Carmack that pulled
Yeah.
that off,
Yeah.
dude. That's the kind of legendary stuff that you go, well, how do you figure that out?
Yeah. That's like a once in a generation thing. Yeah. Well, speaking of Mortal Kombat, so back in the day when Mortal Kombat was launching,
Yes.
they would have mostly in the Chicago area like demo units out there just to see how they worked. I don't know if, I mean, I know the West Coast had a ton of video games going on, but did you ever run into beta builds or things that maybe not everyone saw?
Nah, I can't remember.
No.
No, I remember there were a couple of Hollywood celebrity kid things at the arcade, Starcade.
Hmm.
Um, I spent a lot of time in Westwood at, God, I can't remember. That's sad. I can't remember the name. Wow, I really can't remember the name of the arcade there. Anyway, I would probably spend, I don't know, I'd get $10, $15 in quarters
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
spend some time on Operation Wolf, do a little Slaughterhouse. I don't know, games I could get a bang for the buck out of. iRobot was great.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
There are two modes, the game and the drawing mode. Um, that was the like as far as those chips could really go before it kind of even took off after that.
Mm.
Yeah, the highest technology was like the Aerosmith game. Um, Favorite though was probably Sit Down Star Wars.
Same. You
I
mentioned two of the
can't.
arcade caps I bought. Arcade Star Wars and Tron were my
You
and I
bought arcade Star Wars and
and to
Tron,
move here,
very
I had to
special
sell them.
cabinets.
Yeah.
They're not swappable with other games. They're not a
Hmm.
reskin of something. I'm impressed. Those are very nice cabinets. Wow.
Yeah, those are cool. Well, and also on this podcast in the past, I should have. See, this is me not doing enough research. This is me not stalking you enough, Keith. Did you? We did a whole episode on the GameWorks launch where it was a bunch of celebrities, doing. Who was that Spielberg a favor and showing up at his GameWorks and being on MTV? As a kid, loving games, were you ever invited to any of those parties or anything like that?
No, the two story one is the Habsies commercial I did. Co-starring Shavar Ross, and they in the serial. If you join a contest, you could win a Zaxxon video game.
Oh wow.
And we shot the commercial. Here comes a truck, and they pull out a Zaxxon, and they drop it on the curb. And I'm very familiar with the game, so I'm like all over it. And what was really cool is when they go shoot the insert of what's on the screen. Of course, it's a shot looking out of the cabin of our wide eyes going, ooh, and they got lights on us. But then they needed a shot of the game.
Hmm.
I got to be the kid on the joystick. Because I'll take you to the level with the cool I know what you want. So I got through all the stuff and I go, this is the part you want. And so
That's
that was
awesome.
really stoked to be the the stunt hand, whatever it was, That little nerd things like that make me happy. The other one was I got to the final round of E.T.
Oh wow.
And it is the last call. It's alone with Spielberg in his office at Amblin. And my mom, whose father was Jackie Coogan and
Hmm.
labor laws and
Hmm.
never leave your kid alone with somebody, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So she goes, she'd seen Jaws. She's like, he's fine. You can go with Spielberg. I'm like, I've been told never to go alone with the guy. So I'm in there with Spielberg. And he's got games around his room. And he's got Battlezone. Did I tell this story before?
No, I don't think so.
He goes, you want to play some games? And I'm like, oh my God, I run over to Battlezone and I'm playing, it's like Star Wars. It's
The
the
vector,
vector-based
yeah.
graphics, but and I'm going nuts and shooting tanks and he goes, okay, you want to work on the scene? And I'm into a battle and I'm like, hold on, and I'm trying to finish my game. So Elliot, who got it? Who was the kid?
Oh,
Terrible, I
yeah.
can't remember his name.
Henry.
Thomas.
Yes.
I saw an interview with Henry Thomas about the making of E.T. and he goes, yeah, in the final call, I get in there and all these video games in the room. And Spielberg goes, do you want to play the games? And I go, no, I just want to work on the scene. And Henry Thomas goes, it was a trap. It was to see if a kid had the focus to work on a
Oh
motion picture
no.
for 3 months and everything. And my mom wouldn't let me use the Coogan name. If I could have just looked at Spielberg and gone, I'm Jackie Coogan, Chaplin, the kid, he would have cast me in a heartbeat. Maybe even as a friend, would have gotten in the picture. But
Wait a second.
dumbass
I didn't
me.
realize that. So you were using a different last name?
Yes, my mother didn't want me to be a Nepo grandbaby,
Hmm.
which I coined that term. Most people are Nepo babies.
Yeah, yeah.
You know? So she had me act under her married name, which was Mitchell.
Hmm.
So all the television as a kid, I was under Keith Mitchell.
Oh, okay.
And after 10 years and some series and TV appearances, and a bunch of commercials, and my grandfather had passed, then I had changed it to
Mm.
Coogan. Having earned it, paid my dues.
Yeah,
Like,
yeah.
Mom, do you know how much it would have helped me?
Oh,
But she
yeah.
said nothing is worse for an actor than not knowing the reason they got cast in a role. So
Well, did you
I don't care.
e-
You're on a mark either way.
well, I'm hoping there's I'm pulling the silver lining here is did you get to play Spielberg's Star Wars cabinet? Because it was a special one. Do you
No, I
remember?
didn't. I don't think. I don't think he had a Star Wars cabinet in there. I would have jumped on that.
Because there was
Yeah. No, he didn't have any cabinets. I
oh,
mean, he didn't
really?
have any sit down ones, but
Because one of the developers to that game, Spielberg really wanted one. And so I don't know if it was in his office or something. Maybe it was at his house or something like that. But they gave him the one that they were using to test with, which no one can, other than Keith, can see the hand gestures I'm doing. But on the control panel, they put a button that they called the force. And if you pushed it, it paused the game, but you could still shoot. And they used it to take pictures and stuff for the manual. And they gave that one to Steven, and he thought that was a feature. And so when he got a different one, I don't know if he moved or got a different office or something, he thought it was broken. He's like, "Where's the force button?" So I was hoping you played that legendary cabinet.
ah, that's legendary.
Yeah, yeah. Well, so out of all the systems growing up, it's awesome that you never really stopped. What are the ones like? What's the standout ones? Like for me, I think
Oh,
like
Sega. I mean,
really, I was just going
look
to
at the
say
Genesis.
32X. Yeah.
Yeah, it was because Genesis went into becoming the Sega CD, the 32X. I had the Super Tower stack. I had the CD on the bottom, the 32X, and then the Master System on top. Different power supplies going. It took 3 power supplies to run this
Hmm.
damn thing. I had all the peripherals. I had the steering wheels and the special joints, everything, flight controllers. Um, Mach 5 was a famous afterburner. Great games, great games. They started to get pretty good at mimicking arcade. Like Space Air, they were behind the times,
Hmm.
but 3, 4 years later, you could play Space Harrier, an arcade where like it felt like the arcade on the Genesis.
That's why
I
I
had
got the
Master System with the
32X.
3D goggles.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I was playing Space Harrier on the 8-bit with 3D. It would they were
Like oscillating, right? Or something. Is
yeah, they
that what
would
it's
oscillate
called?
back
Yeah.
and forth. Yeah, Liquid Crystal and
And
um yeah, so I've played all the Night Traps and the
so have you been buying? So you gave all these to your brother. Have you
yes.
bought any of like the analog systems or bought any of them back or, have them hooked up for you to play now?
We have a few of those joysticks. What we've been collecting is just too many arcade one-ups.
Hmm.
Because online there's good emulation. Some of my favorites were like Jungle Strike, Urban Strike. Because Sega made games that save codes were a thing. Yeah, you write it down and everything. But screw that. You could get through a Sega Genesis game in an hour or two. If
Hmm.
you knew what you were doing, you could finish the game. You could sit down, have a challenge, and finish it in one sitting. That was
Yeah.
the genius of it. They weren't these 8-hour, 30-hour, 40-hour games.
Yeah. Especially, yeah, those Sonic games. I mean, you could get through in like 45 minutes, even faster if you're using the warp and stuff like that. And so
Now I since I've sunk money into these things, I would lie to myself, and the games like Panzer Dragoon was a good game, but beautiful to look at. There was one called Aladdin's Carpet or something where you fly around on a carpet
Oh, I think it's
and
a
deal with
magic
these,
carpet, maybe.
yeah, magic carpet or something. And it was, that one was pretty neat. I pushed the boundaries.
Nice, nice. And then did you, from Sega, like everyone else, did you hop to Sony? You went
No.
when the
So
PlayStation came
I
out?
started working to the point that I just didn't have time for games.
Hmm.
And I jumped to, I think someone gave me a PS2, and Loaded was one of my favorite PS2 games.
Mm.
You're insane people breaking out of a prison, and it's just a top down, a lot like um, the game that was like The Running Man, and it had multi people could play it, and it was just so much going on the screen, and kind of Robotron controls.
Smash TV.
Yes, that's it.
Yeah, that's it. Yeah.
So it was a lot. Loaded was a lot like Smash TV, but it was very dark, very bloody,
Oh,
very cool. We
interesting.
got the cops called on us because I was playing Loaded on PS2 too loud,
Really?
like the shotgun and people screaming, and they got the cops called on me for playing video games
Oh
too
my
loud.
God. So you're so knocks on your
Doom,
door and
when
cops are there?
when one of the decent copies, I forget if it was the 32X or the Saturn. I probably at one point, because I was obsessed with first person, I couldn't get enough of them. I couldn't find them. It was hard to get them. Wolfenstein blew me away.
Yep.
And then Doom came out, and I was like, how do I play this at home? I didn't have PC set up. I only had consoles. I had a PC, but it was only for music.
Hmm.
I had the Cakewalk music production, and it was an old 3.1, Windows 3.1. Um, God, where was I? See, so much, because this is the kind of
Doom,
uber
and
goober
buying your
need.
first Doom computer.
Yeah, I didn't. It was finally 32X, I think, had bad music.
It,
It,
it
it,
it was really bad in many ways. In fact, we had Rebecca Heineman on here who did that port, and she said like they only gave her like 3 or 6 weeks to do it, and
it played good enough to really enjoy the game.
mhm.
And that shotgun sound, if you crank, I had a stereo like an amp, and I set up like stereo speakers and would play Doom on these things.
Mhm. Mhm.
That and the yeah, it was a good experience. Um,
Yep.
Doom plays great in browser. Go to archive.org, fantastic.
Yeah.
And Doom still is a banger of a game.
I do think archive.org might be the most important site on the internet.
Yeah, when I went down, I was pretty disappointed. Another one, Daedalus, it was called. Uh,
On PS2?
no, it was on Sega 32X probably.
Oh.
I
Oh,
played all
that's
those, Star Wars games that they did too. No, PS2, Little Resident Evil. What else? Oh, War, God of War 2, and probably one of the last ones was Shadow of the Colossus,
that is one of the best
which I can't
games
believe
made.
played on PS2. So
That game is incredible. And
Good.
most of these games are being made into movies or series right now. You got to have your agent got to get you fighting Kratos or something in the God of War
Well,
movie.
because they quickly realized they have this great technology and could do better smoke and fire effects, but they realized story was key. Look at
Mhm.
God of War. It's like um, it isn't like Doom. Throw story out the window, just start shooting stuff.
Mhm.
They got rid of anything that slowed the game down, searching bodies or finding artifacts um, so. But a lot of the, I think PS2 games had a lot of story. Yeah, and
The-
it kind of comes from there were games like Seventh Guest. There was a couple
Hmm.
of games that were houses that were haunted, and you walked around and you saw Myst was huge, huge. I did play Myst on PC, and that
Yeah, that was the Game Club game last episode. Well, in
nice,
recording this last episode, so a few episodes
nice.
ago.
They have it where you can play it in like a 3D engine,
Hmm.
and it's not the same.
No,
I
it's not
like
good.
the classic, way of playing Doom, way of playing that game.
Going back to stories, though, I think that's why, not the only reason, obviously, but a reason why the Dreamcast failed, because it was so arcadey. It was the first time that like the arcade was actually in your house, but that was also the problem too, where it felt like it was munching quarters, where you had the PS2 that was telling stories, you know?
Right. Because when you're munching quarters, you have this time pressure and a sunk cost fallacy. So as you're going, you go, I did pretty good on Outrun, let's
Mhm.
say. You're like, oh, I was 10 seconds away from that next. Each they kind of take away more time. Buddy of mine did a comic bit. He goes, life and your bills is like that.
Yeah.
You first lap of Outrun and you finish. You got 60 seconds left. Cool. Then you start. Then the next one, you got 45 seconds left. Then you're running out of time, man. Now you're like 10 seconds. Then you got to put a quarter in the next time you want to play and get credit. And you got to keep feeding quarters into it as you go.
That's a great
Um,
analogy.
yeah, it really is. So they learned how to really rope quarters out of us. And at this point, what was the first game they wanted us to pay 50 cents for? Dragon's Lair.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That one, and we went, all right. And then, of course, the race to try to get a home version of that took a while, but
The Sega CD one was fantastic because it gave you kind of that easy mode where it would tell you which way to point, and
mm, mm.
yeah, they did a good job with that. I've actually been stalking
Oh,
some real cells of those, and there's a few online stores that have the originals, and I can't afford
ooh,
them right now, but I have my eye on them. I'll have to win the lotto for
ooh.
those.
Yeah, all of the Sewer Shark and Night Trap and the full motion games were interesting, but we just didn't. There wasn't technology to get a lot of that. You get it in an intro screen, maybe at the most on the earlier systems.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, the pre-rendered. Yeah,
Remember, story was in the manual, was in the instruction booklet, which they don't even provide now. They're like everything's in the game, and just do the help menu in the game.
I don't know if you find this or you seek out retro things. They probably seek you out because here we are. But what gets under my skin is a lot of people will play a game now, in a retro game, and then they immediately make fun of it, where all their gripes they had, if they just pulled out the manual or the Nintendo Power that came out the same month, the game's actually great. Like, E.T. was not that bad of a game if you read the manual. You know,
Yeah,
Zelda or Metroid really didn't seem that difficult if you had the Nintendo Power that every kid had back then. So it's kind of out of
right.
context, and some of this hate is unjustified.
See, but that's where it gets into: is this something for pop culture? Is this for everybody, or is this only for the nerds who can figure out the goddamn Indiana Jones game on the 2600? So I played this one game that used both controllers and the select and black and white switches. I think it was the shuttle game,
Star
the
Raider
space
had
shuttle
one.
game. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great
Um,
one.
took me a while to figure out that this second controller controls the duck in Duck Hunt. God damn it.
Yeah. Yeah,
I did not know that.
my parents got me Star Raiders for 2600 used, but it didn't come with the
Star
second.
Raiders, that one was really
It didn't come
tough.
with the extra controller though. So I couldn't do it. I was like, why am I so bad at this
Oh,
game?
oh no.
But now I have
Oh,
it
no.
40 years later or something.
It's interesting. Some games are only PC because you need that mouse to get around.
Hmm.
There were like full motion video shooter games. They just point and click, and with a joystick, that's really hard. Those later systems started analog controllers that
Hmm.
helped, but not really. Light guns, awesome. God, some great light gun games.
Yeah, I mean, that kind of died with CRT monitors, though. The nice thing, though, is, they came back a little bit with the Wii, and now with the Switch, they came back with that House of the Dead remake, which was fun, and they're actually doing a sequel, the sequel to House of Dead, because, your Switch controllers you can use almost like, a light gun, but yeah, you can't emulate that stuff anymore. No CRT screens. So, as we have the rest of the podcast here, would you mind if I went into some of our topics? We have one news item for this one, and then the two Game Club games.
Do it.
So there's just one news item I thought this time, since I meant to say this at the top of the show, but our listeners should know that we're recording. This is a rare case where we're recording. We're swapping a few episodes around, so this isn't the newest news when our listeners hear this, but it's a retro show, so who cares? But the new version of MAME came out, and it's one of the biggest versions yet. And so it now has a RISC recompiler, which what that means is that if you have a Raspberry Pi or something like that, this will work much better on those. Plus, it has a lot of CDI fixes and a lot of TV games. Did you ever have a CDI back in the day?
No, but I have a hard drive with a backup of an older Mac OS system that has a MAME and hundreds of ROMs. Oh my
nice,
God.
Nice.
And you know what? They mostly recreate really well. Sometimes there'd be a weird chipset they couldn't figure out, or there'd be a sound issue here or there. But most of the time, that stuff was dead on. And that really brought so many games back for me that I forgot about in the arcade at all, because it really was. There was a saturation of so many great games. They were so fun to play, but there's so many of them. So,
well, exactly. And I mean,
they don't turn into franchises like Elevator Action.
Yeah, and I mean, that's why podcasts like this exist. But MAME's also great for, like you said, you're collecting arcade one-ups, and those aren't cheap. So if there's like one you're on the fence of, it's always good to maybe I'll load it up on MAME or archive.org, and let's see if that'll scratch that itch instead of spending $600.
They're not cheap, but they're not a $3,000 arcade cabinet.
No.
But also about arcade one-ups is it's the artwork up and down. I mean, our centipede, that beautiful, life-size tall centipede on the side of it. That what
is
it's all
piece
about.
of
I'm
artwork.
looking at my Asteroids and Miss Pac-Man right now. Just off sitting there. They look just great, and they make you feel great. They make you remember
a better time.
Yeah, and I'll put on the save screens. Oh, and each one comes with multiple games. So yeah, maybe you're gonna do, dig dug a bit, but then it's also got Asteroids, and it's got our Asteroids has Tempest. And Tempest, man, it's got a good spinner.
Yeah.
It feels like the arcade, and I've never seen that recreated on MAME. I've never seen it recreated on any other version, but the arcade one-up one is dang good.
Yeah, man. Yeah. And yeah, you're right. You need that perfect spinner. It has to have the right weight. That's hard to do.
I can't find a good version of Joust that feels and plays and sounds like the original.
Interesting. Maybe I'll do some research for you.
Yeah. I heard there's some new Joust out or a celebration of it or something. So it came up because I read an article about it. But Joust cost me a girlfriend. My God.
How? I need that story.
Birthday party, straw hat, and just spent too much time playing Joust.
Oh, nice. Ignoring the girl playing Joust.
Yeah, exactly. And that one was 50 cents a game. My God.
Sometimes you look back and you're like, maybe I dodged a bullet there. Maybe Joust saved me.
My wife says she used to hang out at arcades too, but it was to go pick up boys.
And so let's move on to the game club. So our first game that Zach, who takes care of all our show notes and our socials and stuff like that, thank you, Zach, chose this one for this episode, Ninja Gaiden 2, The Dark Sword of Chaos. Now, Keith, have you played this one?
Yes, I have. It's another one of those you can sit down. You get frustrated at the Bridgewater area, but it's just fun. It has the verticality in the first forest levels. And it's fun, and it continues on it, and really does feel like was it a game called Slider in arcade? And he did a lot of sliding. There was a lot of like diagonal surfaces, and he would slide along and rip people. And Ninja Gaiden and Ninja
Was
Gaiden
it? Oh,
2 feel like that.
Strider? Are you thinking of Strider?
Strider,
Yeah.
that's the game. Yeah, for some reason I connect those.
Yeah, because he does slide, right? Yeah. Yeah,
Yeah.
and he's a ninja too. Yeah.
Yep. Yep.
Interesting. Yeah. So this came out in 1990. It randomly had here, I just had this open. So the director of Ninja Gaiden 2 was the writer of Chrono Trigger, and he also worked on Xenogears, Chrono Cross, and Final Fantasy 9 and parts of 7. So this guy is a
Wow.
G. Yeah. So
Interesting, because all those other titles have way more of a lore and story, and Ninja Gaiden is a jump and slasher, man.
but
Throw some
remember,
shurikens.
if you go back and play it now, it's so impressive to be on the Nintendo because this is 1990. It came out, yeah, on the NES and Famicom and the arcade, and it has real like movie cutscenes. Something I don't remember seeing before in a Nintendo game.
Right. It does. The opening, that's right.
And then
That's
between each
exactly right.
level, yeah, it's just fantastic, and it is also one of the best Nintendo Powers too. Were you a subscriber to any of those magazines, Nintendo Power, Game Pro, anything
No,
like
I
that?
would go to magazine store and rifle through them and memorize
Yeah.
the codes.
Yeah.
And it was really mostly for Fatal Instinct and Mortal Kombat and all of those Mortal Kill. What was the Killer Instinct?
Killer
Was that what it
Instinct.
was called?
Yeah. Yeah.
Killer Instinct, Rampage. Those kinds of games. Any of the fighting games had great codes for finishing moves and
Yeah. Yeah.
fatalities. Oh my God, babalities,
Yeah. Yeah.
animalities.
I,
Mortal Kombat 3 went bananas. Too much, but 2 is the sweet spot.
I agree. Yeah. Yeah. Oh, I need to replay that soon. And but
Yeah.
this one was reviewed great in those as well. It was, like I said, one of the best Nintendo Powers, and yeah, it added just enough from the first one. You know what I mean? Where it wasn't exactly the same, but it played similar. You had new powers. I thought it was a perfect update.
Yeah.
And the
So
next,
top of the line platformer, great colors. Way more playable than Batman Returns or something like that, IP or licensed stuff. And it felt connected to a universe of games, obviously because it's part 2.
well, let me look this up. I have a feeling they're developing this, or is it Shinobi Ninja? Here, I'm googling right now, listeners. A very fun
What's the
listening video.
difference?
I know.
Honestly,
Gaiden,
Strider,
movie. Let's
Shinobi,
see.
Ninja Gaiden.
No, it's not that. So it must be
They were just
Shinobi.
fun, and they go back to karateka and kung fu.
Yup.
The first karate ones, one of them, and which really is the plot of Mortal Kombat 2, is you're fighting a guy, and then you go up a room on the tower, and then you fight another guy. It's game of death.
Yeah. Yeah. Exactly.
We'd seen Enter the Dragon,
Yeah.
okay,
Yeah.
and Game of Death, and all we wanted to do was be Bruce Lee, honestly.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. And this really scratched that itch, and yeah, like you said, it's great. And also, yeah, not too different from Shinobi. I do think I prefer Ninja Gaiden, but that's another debate. The next game is Robocop. It came out, it was by Data East. It came out in 1988 in arcade and pretty much everywhere. And this time I played it on MAME. Did I play it on MAME? No, I played it on the Analog Pocket. And then I also played the NES port. And I'll tell you, this game, yeah, it's a little stiff, but I thought it played great. I thought it was easy to learn. I like the difficulty level. It's kind of a mid difficulty level. It really actually was reviewed pretty well. But do you have memories of the Robocop games?
So this is not the first person 2003.
No, this is 1988 side scrolling.
Okay. Is it not a reskin version of Eastward?
It says it could be of Bad Dudes versus Dragon Ninja.
Huh. It felt a lot like Eastward, which was one of my favorite games. But um, the RoboCop looks great in it. The
Mm-hmm.
shading, the pixel shading on the helmet.
Oh, you're right. It looks exactly like Eastwide. Let me
Yeah, Ed
see.
209 looks great. It was good. I think uh, forgettable for me in terms of like Eastwad. I remember, man.
Yeah.
That's like
And
yeah, that's
I looked it up. Eastwide is Sega, and this is Daddy. So not a reskin, but yeah,
okay.
very similar.
Wow, wow. Yeah, it's always hit and miss with movie intellectual property. Although Rambo 3 is a fantastic Genesis game.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
You get to shoot bow and arrows that have explosive tips on it at a helicopter. What? Come on.
Yeah.
That's
What else do you
fantastic.
want, especially as a teenager? Yeah.
Yeah, RoboCop I didn't have. And but I do remember seeing it. I probably played it on MAME out of curiosity.
It
I
was
don't think
for a while. It was in like every arcade. I'd say like about 1989. It was in
mm.
every arcade. So
And did it have Peter Weller's voice and the
I
your
forget if it
move
had the
creep?
voice. It definitely did the soundtrack well.
Okay.
And it's funny. Video games. Growing up in Detroit, video games, especially in the '80s, was really strange because, well, two things. Like Goonies was huge back then, and I don't know if you remember, but in the end of Goonies, I love that Goonies 2, the game. But the worst thing that could happen to them was they if they lost in Goonies, they'd be sent to Detroit. So all of us kids in Detroit were like, "Wait a minute, are we poor?" And
Do
but
they use Detroit in
yeah,
Goonies?
yeah. At the end, they're like, "Well, you'd have to move to Detroit." I think Data says that. And then RoboCop, Delta City was Detroit, and it was just like I was like, "Yeah, it's actually not too far off." And so everyone from Detroit loved RoboCop. In fact, there's even a gold RoboCop statue in the middle of Detroit now. Like,
Now the original film, they had been using RoboCop internationally, already selling it to other countries, but they needed approval to use it here.
really?
Um, and in the sequel, they're using it. No, no. In the original, we started using it here so that we can license it to other countries.
Oh, okay.
In the sequel, RoboCop, we're already licensed to other countries, and they're trying to get it to use it on us. So they flipped it from RoboCop to the RoboCop sequel to the not the sequel, the remake. The
The
remake flipped
remake.
all of the
Okay.
original politics
That's
of
right.
the company.
Interesting. Yeah, I have to watch the remake again. I only saw that once, but
It's yeah, really eerie. They didn't need to go there on showing how much was left of him. Ooh, that was unnecessary. And it lacked the fun, the tongue in cheek, the camp.
that's what I love about those
Um,
movies.
so, do you think that the game is fun, or does it take it just too serious?
Both. It does take itself too seriously. I do like the gameplay, but like, when's the next time I'm going to go back to it? Maybe in 5 years. But nothing wrong with it. I do remember back in the day having fun with it in the arcade, though. And
Nice.
so, I would love for you to pick our next game club game that we would talk
I,
about next episode with the listeners.
I don't know if you've covered either of those titles, God of War or Shadow of the Colossus. You
Let,
said you just did Shadow of the Colossus?
let's do Shadow of the Colossus because that one's a bit old. Oh, they're both PS2, aren't they?
Yeah, they
Oh,
are.
you
They
pick.
are.
You pick. Both are great.
Let's do Shadow
Okay.
because I think God of War has got new series coming out and it's going to have a lot of attention on it. I mean, uh, did they ever develop Shadow of the Colossus into any sort of animated or any sort of thing other
I
than
don't
its
think
own?
so. Not a sequel, but the developer Team
Oh,
Ico
did it?
did
The
another
horse
game.
one. Yes.
So he did
Yes.
Eco, he did Shadow, and then the last something. And at the last, it was either Xbox or Sony event, they announced a fourth game. It's about robots and stuff. And it looks a lot like Shadow, but with robots. So that's going to be cool. So this could be
God damn it, I'm in.
Yeah, I'm all in. So cool, listeners.
I'm all in.
Listeners, please, play Shadow of the Colossus, Robocop, Ninja Gaiden 2, update your MAME setup. Go visit Keith at the Florida. What was the Florida event again?
Oh, Florida Toy Shows.
Yep.
And we're also going to be in Ohio in April. By Cleveland.
In Westlake, and we're going to be in Vacaville.
We're going to be in Vacaville, California as well in April.
Nice.
Yeah.
So go see Keith, get an autograph, get a high five. And again, our email is email@retrogameclub.net. I do have one more announcement, though. And this will be a question for Keith, too. Our next question of the episode is, have you ever imported video games from Japan, especially in the 80s or 90s? Were you ever an importer to try to get them early?
No, but the video game store at Santa Monica Place in Santa Monica had a section, and they even had the console, and they were untranslated and everything, and I always shied away from it. I didn't want to get into it.
Well, yeah, I mean, so you probably saw like Super Mario Brothers 3 or Mario World before it actually came out, like if it was in there, or all those Mega Drive games, yeah.
Yeah, Mega Drive, wow. Just amazing how many and varied of the cartridge based had lasted for so long. Sticking cartridges into my Genesis or whatever for so long. Was it PS2 that started the CD?
PS1. Well, really,
PS1.
3DO, yeah, but no, TurboGrafx 16 CD was the first one.
3DO, the Jaguar. Mm-hmm. The Jaguar was cartridge, right? Yeah.
They had a CD add-on.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Well, Keith, thank you so much for a second interview. It's always a pleasure. I could talk to you forever.
Thank you. I nerd out on this stuff, and usually by myself, so I appreciate
I made notes.
Having an audience too.
Yeah. Hey, I do this podcast as an excuse to talk about video games, but I made notes of a few things we talked about. So I'm going to shoot you some stuff like the Karateka link to that new thing because it's seriously like one of the most. His dad wrote the music in that, and his dad's like really old now, and he like plays it on piano. Oh my god, it's one of the most charming things you'll ever see. So I'll definitely send you that stuff. And again, thank you so much.
Thank you so much. And I appreciate it. Thank you guys for listening. And we'll see you out there on PlayStation 5. I'm Hollywood Kids.
Oh, nice. So everyone friend him up.